Morning Majority on 630 WMAL.
07 on the Morning Majority. We have Byron York for the Washington Examiner. Good morning, Byron.
How are you, Byron?
Good morning, Maria Catherine.
I wanted to ask you, we'll get into the debate, but before the debate, the CNN poll that came out the other day, you picked out a great tidbit showing that actually, even though it's a small sample, when you get down to the older voters, Perry's number is pretty good with 65 and up, even post Social Security comments. What do you think about that, and what do you think about how his discussion of it last night may change or not change that?
Not only pretty good, but his lead over Mitt Romney among voters 65 and older, and also break it down another way, among voters 50 and older, is a lot bigger than his lead over Romney with younger voters. So if Perry's talk is scaring seniors about Social Security, then they're not showing it in the polls. Last night, I thought it was kind of a draw on this. They did kind of a rock'em sock'em robots thing, punched each other a little while, and came out basically in a draw. It was later on in the debate over immigration and the HPV virus that Perry really took some tough shots.
Do you think that this is something, I mean, we get to the general election, that the Ponzi scheme thing is just going to pop up over and over again, or are we going to actually... I thought this could be the trigger for an actual decent conversation about entitlements.
You notice that, first of all, Perry has run away from the phrase Ponzi.
Right.
He did an op-ed in USA Today yesterday in which he did not use the words. Last night, the words only passed his lips to say that other people have called it a Ponzi scheme before I did. I don't think you're going to hear him saying that a lot. I thought Romney's critique on Social Security was more substantive than that. He was saying, look, are you still saying that
Right.
Social Security is a failure and it's unconstitutional and it should be given to the states? And Romney's going to continue to press Perry on that, and Perry was on the defensive on those issues.
I was thinking to myself, if Romney was smart, he would say, if you think it's unconstitutional, then don't you have a duty as the President of the United States to then change that so we're not violating the Constitution? I mean, I thought Romney should have taken that track on it.
Well, Perry found the difference between writing a campaign book and actually being questioned on your views.
Right.
If you remember, Perry said, well, you know, any program's been here 70 or 80 years, people rely on it, we're not going to get rid of that program, which was basically, forget what I wrote about it, It's here.
I thought, though, Mr. Romney tried. I thought the person who really took a body blow or a shot to the face to Perry last night was Ron Paul, when he said, my taxes have, I think he said, doubled, or have certainly gone up under Rick Perry's term as governor, and I'm afraid to say anything bad to the governor for fear he'll raise my taxes. And also, I think the biggest thing was that there really haven't been that many jobs created. Most of the jobs were government jobs. I thought that was a serious blow to Rick Perry last night.
Ron Paul did take that shot, and as a Texan, Ron Paul's a longtime representative from Texas. Romney also hit Perry pretty hard on jobs. He said, there's been great growth in Texas under Ann Richards, who was the Democratic predecessor of Perry. It was 2.5% under George W. Bush. It's 3% a year, and under Rick Perry, it's 1%. And then Romney said, so charitably, those are all good numbers.
What about Michelle Bachmann? I mean, before Perry got into the race, Michelle Bachmann was sort of the darling of the Tea Party. Her numbers looked pretty good. She was running a fairly disciplined campaign and was starting to make a little movement. And then Perry came in. She sort of got blown off the radar. She fell way back in the pack. It seems to me that if she was going to make a move, last night was the proper time to do it. Did she do herself any good last night?
I think she did. I think she excited some of those Tea Party base members who were who had left her or were considering leaving her for Rick Perry. I think that she hit really hard on the issue of this vaccine. Now, we can argue, or maybe we can, about whether this vaccine is a huge national issue. It's not. But Perry did something he does not do a lot, which is he admitted he made a mistake on the vaccine, saying that he shouldn't have done it by executive order. He should have consulted the legislature in Texas, but he stuck with the policy behind the vaccine, and that's where Bachmann hit him really hard.
By the way, I should mention that we're going to be taking calls on this debate and what you thought about it, who are the winners and losers, so if you want to call in and get ready for that, that's fine. Can I turn to the jobs bill yesterday? The president has a bill. We saw it right there in his hand, and it is my opinion, having read the details of the bill, that, Byron, this is pretty much, there may be a thing or two that gets through, but mostly this bill is sort of dead on arrival on Capitol Hill. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, realistically, can it be passed?
Not in the form it is today.
Right.
Absolutely not. And the White House is trying to push this as a take it or leave it. David Axelrod said this is not an a la carte menu, which was a response to John Boehner and Eric Cantor saying, well, there's some things in this bill that we would like to pass. So yeah, I think you're going to have just a long, protracted fight over various portions of the bill. If I could get back to the debate in 1 second, it was interesting that the very day, just hours before, President Obama had proposed son of stimulus financed by raising taxes, and it really wasn't much of a topic.
They sort of ignored it, yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting because that's obviously something they would be hitting the president very hard on were they on the campaign trail in a general election.
I wanted to ask you about Huntsman actually had a few clunkers last night, sort of jokes that fell flat. How long is he going to stick around, do you think? I mean, he keeps getting a lot of airtime.
I'm glad you mentioned that because actually I had to write a column which is in the Washington Examiner today in addition to the piece I wrote about the debate, and the column had to be finished before the debate, and I wrote it about Huntsman, who is actually in danger of being excluded from future debates. His poll numbers are so low.
Oh, the press will be so sad.
Got in by the skin of his teeth on the CNN debate, and if his polls continue to go down, he might actually be excluded from some future debates. I think everybody thought it was really a dismal performance. His jokes didn't work, and I just think he really hurt himself last night.
Well, so we'll be watching from the sidelines with Gary Johnson and Thaddeus McCotter.
And listening to Nirvana.
Hey, before we let you go, Arizona says it's going to have its primary on the 28th of February. What does that mean for this race?
Well, it shakes things up a little bit in terms of Western representation, but the basic structure of the beginning of the race, which is Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Midwest, Northeast, first in the South, continues and will not change.
All right. Byron, good to talk to you as always. We appreciate your time.
Great to be here, guys.
Byron York from the Washington Examiner with us with the Morning Majority.